Despite my cautious optimism about the Superman reboot, I have to say that almost all of my optimism for the Batman Part 2 being made is gone.
'Cause I've been living life right like I could just die any minute. Going for a ride down the side.
Hi everyone, my name is Jacob Berry. Welcome to the StudioJake vidcast where I talk about all things pop culture. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and if you're watching on YouTube, ring that little bell so you get channel notifications and consider becoming a channel member. All right, so once again, James Gunn proves to be a liar. This is something I even said in my video about my cautious optimism, which is a phrase, by the way. It's in the Cambridge Dictionary. Sorry, just responding to a comment. Anyway, despite my cautious optimism for the Superman reboot, one of the things that I said was James Gunn is a liar and a perv. We all know this about him. And it seems he lied once again. Apparently, the Batman Part 2 is being pushed back all the way to autumn 2027. No real clear date, although they have said October 2027. Like I said, I know James Gunn is a liar, a perv, and he's not, a great director, but he is a good director. However, I never pegged him as someone being foolish or moronic. This move is both of those things. The Batman premiered several years ago, right? And it kind of had a moderate box office success. It seemed like if you had read the comics, you liked the movie more than people who have never read it. Even with the race swap of Commissioner Gordon, you still kind of appreciated it for what it was. It's the Batman fighting the Riddler, and then he's got the Falcones, and then he's got the Penguin, and it's just all this corruption in Gotham City. Some people have seen clues that maybe the setup for the sequel was the Court of Owls. Matt Reeves has said he wanted Clayface. Some people have said it's Hush. And you would think with the success of the Penguin miniseries that they would move up the sequel. However, that is not the case. James Gunn and Peter Safran, the head of DC or the heads of DC Studios, has pushed it back again. There have been some theories about this. My good friend Jester Bell, who I was just on her New Year's Eve live stream, she suggested that there are rumors that Matt Reeves is having personal problems with his marriage. And if that's the case, I don't want to judge Matt Reeves in any way, shape, or form. I hope that whatever that issue is, it gets settled. And that's why it keeps getting delayed, is because that process is what's slowing things down. I've also heard that they just can't agree on the script. Reeves wants to keep it grounded. He wants to do Clayface before Clayface and even planned a mini series that was going to turn him into the mud monster that we all know and love. Gunn has gone back and forth on that. Sometimes he says Clayface is part of the Matt Reeves universe. Other times he says, no, it's going to be a standalone villain movie as part of the new DC universe, the film franchise. So whatever the case may be, you can tell that there's some sort of inner struggle about the Batman's place in the new DC universe. But I still think it's foolish that they push this back. If I was Gunn and Safran, I would just tell Reeves, hey, listen, why don't you take a step back and just produce and write it, and we'll let someone else direct it? Maybe they can pinch Jon Favreau from the Marvel universe, or excuse me, from Star Wars universe, or they can get, another good director to take it over, someone like Edgar Wright or Christopher Nolan. I'm kidding about that last one. Whatever the case may be, just so we can go on with the Batman Part 2 and then you can come back for the Batman Part 3 because we need to move this up. This momentum from the Penguin is really important. But they're not doing that at all. They're just pushing it further back. Now, the second rumor is that this movie is canceled. And this is the one that I tend to agree with. I think that James Gunn's ego is playing a part in this. Because remember, the Batman was greenlit when Walter Hamada was in charge of DC Studios. And Walter Hamada had pretty much had enough of United franchises after dealing with the fallout of the Snyderverse. He's the one who greenlit the Justice League Snyder Cut, but instead of being thanked, the Snyder cultists just blew up on him. They were angry at him, and he wasn't even a part of all the drama with some of the actors, with recutting it. He wasn't even a part of that. So he comes along and he just says, okay, fine, you can have your Snyder cut. You can even do a black and white version, I guess, for HBO Max. And of course, Zack Snyder, he's an even bigger liar than James Gunn, because he was going around telling people the movie was done. It just needed some finer points. And then he blew $60 million finishing the editing of the Snyder cut. Well, Hamada just had had enough of that. So he says, this is a quote from him. He said, "It's all spaghetti now." He just is going, we're going to conclude The Flash, Aquaman, but then after that, we're going to go and we're going to do what we were doing before, where they were all just kind of their own separate franchises. We might do another Justice League movie, but it'll be a different cast than the solo films. And Max, we're going to focus more on television shows based on these properties. So you had Titans, you had the CW universe, right? And then, of course, Superman and Lois, it's completely separate from the CW Arrowverse, as it's called. It's completely separated from that, even though it has the actor who played Superman and Supergirl. So, all that to say, it was a jumbled mess. And that's how The Batman got greenlit. Well, James Gunn comes along, he and Peter Safran, and Gunn wants to just restart the whole thing, right? Which is why he should have delayed Flash. He should have moved up Aquaman and Blue Beetle and then pushed the flashback, so then he could use that as, hey, this is the reset. So some actors are going to be the same, some aren't. And you see this with the end of the Flash, where they mocked the Snyder fans, where they replaced Ben Affleck with George Clooney. That was hilarious. I did laugh out loud when that happened. It's like, haha, even George Clooney is better than Buttfleck. But I digress on that. The Batman kind of became this outlier, right? So a moderate box office success, not really enough to greenlight a sequel right away. But then the Penguin comes along, and the reaction to that was so positive, you would think that they would move that along. But Gunn doesn't want to do that. He wants to introduce his own Batman into his DCU film franchise. And that's understandable. But he's got to realize, either Robert Pattinson either has to come in as this universe's Batman, or he needs to just cancel it. And by all accounts, for me, I think that this movie is just canceled, but they're trying to let Matt Reeves save face it a little bit. So what's going to happen probably is Matt Reeves is going to start working on a new film, and then they're going to be like, "Oh, well, scheduling conflicts. Sorry, we can't do it. So we're going to start working on the DCU film, which is going to be called The Brave and the Bold for some reason. Why don't they call it The Caped Crusader or Dark Detective or Gotham Guardian, something like that, or Batman Cape Crusader? The Brave and the Bold is supposed to be a Batman team up series. And briefly, it was Superman. And I think for a while they did Green Lantern. It was always one of them teaming up. So Batman teaming up with the Flash, or Superman teaming up with Aquaman, or Green Lantern, like I said briefly, with Batman, depending on who the host was for a while. So I don't know why he would use that as a Batman title, because like I said, even though Batman was sort of the host of it, it wasn't really part of the Batman stuff. That was stuff like Batman Inc. and whatnot. So I don't know why he doesn't just call it Batman Cape Crusader, and then he can call the sequel Batman Dark Detective or whatever. That's how he can differentiate his series. Now, one thing interesting about that series is it's also been delayed. They originally tapped the director of The Flash to do it, but that was before The Flash came out. And of course, all the box office predictors, they usually get these things wrong. They thought it was going to be this huge smash hit. But the Snyderverse had burned bridges with the actual audience, not Snyder fans. They were all going to like it no matter what, because it's part of their little Snyderverse. But general audiences really didn't respond to the Snyderverse that well. I mean, they did with Man of Steel, and Wonder Woman, but you could see how each one of those films did less and less and worse as far as box office returns. And then it finally goes out with a whimper with the sequel to Aquaman. That prompted them to delay The Brave and the Bold, which again features Batman, and for some reason Damian Wayne, which I don't get Damian Wayne. I guess he's a little popular. I'm not going to say he's not popular at all, but Batman fans from Gen X and millennials have sort of rejected Damian. He's kind of a Gen Z phenomenon, especially, you know, considering how everything came together that way. Like, even in the New 52, he was so unpopular as Robin, the New 52 just separated him completely from Batman. I mean, he would obviously make appearances in some of Batman's stories, but they also kind of just sent him on a solo adventure or had him with Teen Titans or had him working with John Kent, aka Superboy. They didn't really connect him with Batman for a while. I mean, that was more of the Grant Morrison era when Dick Grayson was Batman. So I don't know why there's this obsession with Damian as far as film. He's not been wholesomely and holistically received by the fans. If anything, we want Tim Drake back, and as Tim Drake, not this dumb DC Rebirth version. We want the original Tim Drake from the New 52, from the 1 year later era. Maybe not New 52, because at that point, of course, he had a falling out with Batman. All the Robins have some falling out with Batman. It's so stupid. Let's just have Batman have a real sidekick for a while. So, all that to say, I think that they have a Batman problem, which is a problem for DC Studios and DC Comics because Batman for a long time was their only hot property. But because they've gotten really crappy writers like Tom King, writing these things, writing his stories, and even since then, it hasn't been that great, right? They tried to do that dumb, new version of Batman in Training, Batman the Knight. I think it was Chip Zdarsky wrote that. That story was terrible. And so they're just continuing to kill the golden goose that is Batman with these movie delays and with hiring writers. They need to bring guys like Chuck Dixon back to write Batman, Graham Nolan, Grant Morrison, all of these great writers who really brought Batman to the forefront instead of these lame stories about him actually getting turned into a robot and all this nonsense. It's so stupid. Anyway, James Gunn, if you're listening, I'm glad that The Brave and the Bold has gotten delayed, especially if Damian was going to be in it. Hopefully, you'll wise up and make Tim Drake the Robin or go back to Dick Grayson, or hey, maybe even let's see Jason Todd. Jason Todd doesn't get a lot of love from film and TV shows, so maybe this would be a good time. You could bring Batman in where Dick Grayson is Nightwing, Jason Todd is Robin, and maybe Barbara Gordon is still Batgirl, or she could be the Oracle, whatever is fine. I think that it would be cool for us and the audiences to see something different. But Damian Wayne, no one cares. Like I said, maybe some of his Gen Z fans and Harley Quinn animated series fans care, but that's about it. That's not a big audience draw. If you really wanted to do the son of Batman, you should bring in Talent Wayne from that Elseworld that was really good. Otherwise, just let it go and also change the title. If you liked that video, be sure to give it a like, share it out to all your friends, leave me a comment, tell what you think, and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, ring that little bell so you get notifications when I post a new vidcast, and consider becoming a channel member. Head on over to my website, studiojakemedia.com, where you can sign up with your email or through the WordPress app. And best of all, it's free with no ads. I've got even more pop culture commentary there, and I publish at least one article daily. If you want to support me in the work I do, head on over to my locals community. The link is in the description of the video. You can sign up for a monthly subscription, or you can send me tips based on the articles I post there, including some exclusive ones that I post just for my locals community. Not to mention, my short stories are published there exclusively. Speaking of stories, you can pick up one or all of my novels on Amazon.com. I've got the supernatural thriller Cacophony. It's about a group of demons who want to take over a small town in Texas and the angels that are sent to defend the town. It's my first ever novella. Definitely check it out. You can also get my Sword and Sorcery, the first two books of the trilogy, which I'm calling the Dark Army trilogy. You got the Seven Royals, All Good Things, and the Seven Royals, Breaking the Stars. It is about a group of your favorite fairy tale characters who have to defend their kingdoms against a dark army led by a maniacal mage and some of his generals. You can also get my latest novella, Blessed Child. It is about an elf princess who discovers she is pregnant with a human child, sending the elven kingdom into chaos. So her father, the king of the elves, hires a human knight who has to be her bodyguard. He is disgraced, but he's on the path of redemption, and the knight and the princess form an unlikely friendship. So definitely Pick this one out or my other ones. Like I said, you can find them on Amazon. Buy one or all four. Leave me a 5-star review. It really helps out small indie creators like myself. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time right here on Studio Jake.